war for global dominance is becoming severe. If in the 20th century, oil was the most precious good any country dreamed of, in the 21st century, chips and semiconductors are the new oil of the era. The US-China chip war is only in its beginning. Today, microchips are used almost everywhere, from benign household appliances to the most advanced military weapons. Thus, two superpowers are doing everything to gain an advantage because the winner might get access to trillions of dollars worth of markets. In 2021, the global semiconductor industry alone had revenues of just over $550 billion, and this is expected to rise by over 80% to more than $1 trillion in 2030. The US has taken the first steps to cut China's access to chips, but the primary question is how it will affect America. So, in this episode, we are going to talk about the possible consequences for the US economy as the chip war continues. Before diving into the analysis, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you contribute to the production of more videos on fascinating economic topics. Let's begin by stating what the US has done so far to cripple China's technological advancement. At the beginning of October last year, Biden's administration introduced an unprecedented set of restrictions that aim to choke Beijing's access to semiconductor chips around the globe. According to the Department of Commerce's Bureau of Industry and Security, as a result of sweeping new regulations, these updates will restrict the People's Republic of China's ability to both purchase and manufacture specific high-end chips used in military applications and build on prior policies, company-specific actions, and less public regulatory, legal, and enforcement actions taken by BIS, including logic chips with non-planar transistor architectures of 16 or 14 nanometers or below, DRAM memory chips of 18 nanometer half-pitch or less, and NAND flash memory chips with 128 layers or more. Bear in mind that America has lost its advantage in the industry. U.S. semiconductor manufacturing capacity has dropped from nearly 40% of global supply in 1990 to 12% today. So, imperative not to let China succeed is evident. Before that, the U.S. introduced the Semiconductors and Science Act of 2022, or CHIPS Act, a $280 billion law that will help the U.S. chip industry increase its capacity and shift the production of semiconductors to America. According to McKinsey, the CHIPS Act directs $280 billion in spending over the next 10 years. The majority, $200 billion, is for scientific R&D and commercialization. Some $52.7 billion is for semiconductor manufacturing, R&D, and workforce development, with another $24 billion worth of tax credits for chip production. In addition, there are $3 billion slated for programs aimed at leading-edge technology and wireless supply chains. The third step to ensure U.S. dominance in the industry was to embroil all allies that produce critical technology into restricting China's access to them. Thus, Japan and the Netherlands have announced joining the U.S. in an endeavor to destroy China's semiconductor industry. The Dutch government already pledged that new restrictions would be imposed by summer, and they will cut ASML, Europe's largest tech firm and a significant supplier to semiconductor manufacturers, technology to certain countries. So far, allies are siding with the US, but already some problems have emerged. The Asian chip producer countries will likely experience challenges. For instance, South Korea's SK Hynix, a semiconductor manufacturer granted a one-year waiver on the new ban, will be forced to reduce production by half, hitting the company's revenue hard. At the same time, a semiconductor manufacturer in Taiwan, TSMC, also was granted a one-year waiver from the U.S. Department of Commerce, which is concerned about the future of the firm, as the restrictions imposed by the U.S. endanger its $450 billion market cap. Furthermore, even having agreed to join the restriction measure, the Japanese government is also worried about the industry's future. Tokyo Electron, a Japanese chip maker primarily partnered with China, will likely lose 25% of its sales. And according to Masahiko Hosokawa, a Meisei University professor and former Director General of Trade Control at the Ministry, a balance needs to be struck, so no one among Japan, the United States, and Europe will be disproportionately disadvantaged. It's about fairness. Thus, the first effect that the U.S. measures will have is the deterioration of relations with its partner states in case of the failure. However, apart from international ties, the chip war against China might backfire on the U.S. economy and semiconductor production. The U.S. semiconductor companies are concerned with the decline of research. According to CSIS, some U.S. semiconductor firms point out that the recently announced export controls will negatively impact their future research investment. U.S. industry consistently accounts for around 50% of global chip sales by revenue, China being by far the largest single market. Moreover, Fitch Ratings says that domestic producers will suffer. They expect the leading U.S. electronic design automation companies, such as Cadence Design Systems, to also face revenue headwinds as exports to China constitute an important strategic customer, given the industry's reliance on Cadence for advanced chip design. Some experts already think the semiconductor war will not end well for the U.S. Others say that America may have already lost it. Despite the extreme challenges China will face due to restrictions, modern industrial history is on China's side. For instance, the high-speed rail industry was entirely Western-based until China picked up initial technology from Western companies like Siemens AG and Alstom SA and developed its sector that is one of the leaders in the world. These products are technologies, they're not magic. And the Chinese task is to reinvent a lot of existing wheels, Dan Wang, a China tech analyst at Gabical Dragonomics, told Bloomberg. Although the restrictions imposed by the U.S. were sweeping and quick, analysts understand that this will be a long-term game. This means that the U.S. government must be prepared to continue efforts both domestically and abroad to convince allies that the strategy will work. At present, however, the U.S. government is arguably under-equipped, under-resourced, and under-informed about the industry and its often intricate global supply chains, according to CSIS. Furthermore, it is crucial to understand that before the world acclimates to the new chip production levels and supply chains, some sectors of the U.S. economy might take severe damage. For instance, automakers have already suffered because of supply chain disruption and chip shortages. The pandemic has already demonstrated how the industries were unprepared for shortages. In June 2022, the U.S. seasonally adjusted annual rate for light vehicle sales came in at 13.22 million, which was up 3% month-over-month, but down 14% year-over-year, reflecting the industry's difficulties. Industry volumes were lower for the 11th consecutive month, down 12% year-over-year. However, volumes were up 2.6% month-over-month, according to J.P. Morgan. So, any disruption in semiconductor supplies as a result of chip war may destroy America's car industry, considering how vulnerable the industry is to such volatility. In other sectors like consumer electronics, which due to high demand did not reduce sales, chip shortages might hit consumer prices, as the largest companies in the industry say. As for the labor market, the good and bad news is to be expected. On the one hand, billions of dollars invested in research and development will boost labor demand in the U.S. and allied countries. On the other hand, however, some uncertainties might lead to massive layoffs. According to U.S. government officials, thousands of highly skilled laborers will be needed. Semiconductor Industry Association expects over 1.1 million jobs to be created. However, the employment argument is also misleading because it implies that the jobs in this sector will be resilient to increasing automation in the manufacturing sector, according to the article at Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. In the end, it seems that the U.S. has put everything at stake. Even in the worst scenarios, The US would destroy Taiwan's semiconductor factories if China appeared on the verge of controlling them after an invasion, said Robert O'Brien, who served as a national security advisor in the Trump administration. That would mean the destruction of the world economy, even if the countries won't engage in the World War, as TSMC produces 90% of the world's most advanced processor chips, while Taiwanese companies produce over a third of the new computing power the world adds each year. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to the channel.